Reports.
All right, there's breaking news coming out of the Pentagon about the possibility of an Israeli attack on Iran. Let's go right to our Pentagon correspondent, Barbara Starr. Barbara, what's going on?
Well, Wolf, we have now confirmed from a senior administration official, Defense Secretary Leon Panetta believes there is a strong likelihood that Israel may strike Iran's nuclear program sometime this spring. Why does the Defense Secretary believe this? The Israelis have been talking about a so-called zone of immunity. What the Israelis believe is that by this spring, that is their best chance to strike Iran's program with their weapons. After that, they believe Iran will have made enough progress that Israeli weapons cannot get to Iran's nuclear effort. It would only be U.S. weapons. This is the Panetta calculus. He has made these statements to the very respected journalist David Ignatius of the Washington Post, traveling with the secretary in Brussels at that NATO meeting. The secretary was asked about this. He has refused comment. But we have confirmed with an administration official, indeed, Secretary Panetta now has made these statements. He believes these are the potential Israeli intentions, and he believes that the intelligence that the U.S. has gathered about Israeli intentions backs this up at this point. Wolf?
There was an amazing article, the cover story of the New York Times Sunday magazine about Israel's intentions by the Israeli journalist Ronen Bergman, who also concludes at the end of that article that he believes the Israelis will, in fact, launch an attack sometime in the coming months. So if Panetta is saying this, he's saying something similar to what this Israeli journalist wrote in the New York Times over the weekend. But here's the suspicion that some folks have, and let me run it by you, Barbara, and see what you think, that this is all designed psychological warfare, if you will, to put pressure on the Iranians to come around, to comply with the United Nations, the IAEA inspectors, and back down in the face of what is perceived to be an imminent threat from Israel. What are they saying about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Wolf. You are correct. There is a very strong school of thought that that is partially what the Israeli intentions are. We have seen Israel go through these cycles of making very aggressive statements about their intentions and then sort of backing off a bit when the United States or the West moves ahead with sanctions or other actions against other pressures against Iran. So that is a very key point here. You are absolutely right. Look, this is intelligence, espionage, spying at the highest levels, potential military action of crisis proportions. So there's a lot of gamesmanship going on here. It should be remembered. It was General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that just days ago said any U.S. military action against Israel would be premature. This is not something the U.S. wants to do. But right now, their key concern is exactly what are the Israeli intentions? Is Israel just once again making these statements, or is there something else going on here? That's what they're trying to determine. That is part, I believe, of what Panetta is trying to reflect, the great uncertainty in the coming months.
Escalating tension over a possible military attack on Iran. Just one day after Defense Secretary Leon Panetta warned that Israel may attack Iran's nuclear sites this spring, Israeli leaders declared that time is running out to stop Iran from getting a bomb. And just this morning, Iran's supreme leader struck back, saying that any attack on Iran will, quote, harm America. Martha Raddatz is here with more. And Martha, you've been covering this closely. The pressure is ratcheting up, and no issue worries American officials more.
There is nothing that worries American officials more. You've heard thoughts from Leon Panetta. He denies this publicly. He won't really talk about it. But the administration is spending a huge amount of time on this issue. As the Iranians bury their nuclear materials deeper in the mountains, the Israelis get more worried. And this is the bluntest warning I've heard to date from Ehud Barak. He said, time is running out. Later is too late. The Americans don't want them to go after Iran. They're afraid of what happens after
What
that.
happens next? What happens to the price of oil? Is there retaliation against Israel? This week we even heard that intelligence officials worried there could be an attack on the United States.
And that is what is really worrying the Americans. An attack on the homeland. I have never heard the intelligence chief say anything like that Iran could actually move into America, that there might be sleepers here willing to attack if Israel attacks Iran. That's why there is so much concern.
Meantime, the U.S. officials think that the sanctions against Iran could work, but in the end they know they really can't stop Israel if Israel wants to attack.
They keep trying to stop Israel, but Israel says if we want to attack, we will.
Okay, Mark.